Hi, everyone. I've been chatting with a lot of folks around the topic of building with generative AI, and the question that keeps coming up is, how do I think about regulations? Especially not just regulations legally, but from a legal, ethical, and moral point of view, knowing that a lot of the dust has yet to settle on where we end up with this. There are several lawsuits and SEC investigations that have now started up. So Getty has sued Stability, and in very recent news, SEC has opened up investigations against OpenAI on how the data is being used. So, and then there's yet one more lawsuit that we have heard about. So, what are some of the? So, this is what we're going to talk about, and I'll start off by sharing what are the key topics that keep coming up. So, the key issues there are three key issues that everybody is concerned about, and number one is impersonation of private individuals. There's more complex topic of public individuals, but that's regulation that's a little bit more digestible and addressable. The second one is AI deception, which is where a human might be interacting with an AI, but doesn't know that on the other side it's not a human, but it might be purely a human purely an AI on the other side, or a mix of human AI, and getting deceived by that. And lastly, it's probably a little bit more of a related topic, which is data lineage. And you also have the issue of consent. Who owns the data? Who gets paid for the data? So these are the three primary concerns, and you may put this in two different buckets, but anyway, three primary concerns that I'm hearing about as I chat with executives and builders in the AI space. And after thinking about this a lot and collecting a lot of the data, at least I have some of my opinions on this clearly thought through, that these have to be addressed, where potential solutions eventually, and if you're building in a space where you don't know where the law is settled, I think the few things that we could make a conservative assumption on, and again, this is my personal opinion, that you can say that at least this part, you can expect that it will be illegal or to impersonate. Now, some people may still do this on their air-gapped machines, but at the least, like, you can't impersonate somebody and put content out in the public. And this might be not just impersonating, audio. You have audio, video, text, and maybe even style. I don't know. And then the question goes, what about? I guess the nuance is, what about public personalities and personas? What about people who've passed away? And there might be a very positive application you might be building that might be helping folks whose loved ones have passed away, and they'd actually find emotional comfort in having a generative AI that might be able to help them. The next issue is AI deception, and this is one where I think there are two scenarios where there is a simple solution, and a third scenario where it's not clear to me if there's a simple solution. Let's start with the simple solutions: human generated content. Human generated alone, I guess. And so this is a piece of art that a human creates and has no assist or augmentation from AI. Original piece of content, obviously no data labeling. This is basically your default piece of content or communication. However, if you have, let's go to the next simpler case, AI generated content or communication, the solution might be clear label that human is interacting with AI, and this is think about customer success or customer service use cases. So if you're talking on the phone, talking to an AI agent, you should know that you are talking to an AI agent. You should not be deceived that you're not. So today, when you call, you're obviously hearing fairly robotic voices, and you don't need a explicit label. But very soon, with tonality and actual human voice mimicking capabilities, you might need a very clear indicator or label that you're talking to an AI agent. And if a handoff is made to a human agent, that happens very clearly. So I think this is going to be important, because if you don't do this, I think this is our biggest risk to humans generally, is if we are getting deceived by AI that we're talking to a human, so a human can't differentiate if they're seeing a content or getting comms from AI versus humans. Now, the more complex or nuanced case is AI augmented. And let's say you're using ChatGPT to create a contract. Do you need to let your end client know that that contract was generated by an AI or by using ChatGPT? Now, I think that this is where it's nuanced, and I think different companies are going to take a different approach, where some may choose to label or like share that, hey, this draft was augmented. But I think that if you put a simple check, which is any AI generated content that is reviewed and sent by human doesn't require a label. That might be a possible solution, but I don't know. It's a nuanced question. I don't know where the dust will settle there, but at least it's very clear that this part, when you are chatting with something that is purely an AI, you better have very clear labeling that it is or it isn't an AI. Now let's go to the third topic, which is data lineage and consent. So when you build these models today, there are two data sets that go into it. So let's call this like the base model. When you build a base large language model, you're going to input a lot of data, and not just text data, but it might be multimodal data, but you're using what I call raw data or next best word or next best pixel, whatever prediction. This data comes from a lot of sources, and question of consent needs to exist. Yes, then go into the model. No, then you don't use it. And then this gets a model number or a tag, so that you know that when you consented for a model, it had a version number tag, and at least that base model now contains your data. Any future models you could remove consent, but once you've consented to one model being built, that's done. And then you have fine-tuning models, where you have more data that might go in. Fine-tuned models, and again, you need consent-driven data here. And this consent, you might pay somebody for it or reward somebody for it in lots of structures, but again, this might also have some sort of a model iteration, model ID, and you can iterate outputs when queries come in. So queries come in. Anytime you query something that is consented up and down on both base models, you have this situation where models have tags. There's data lineage. You know where the data came from. Now you may not know how the model mixed up all of that data and did it get used in a specific query, which is okay as long as you have consent to build the models. And you can also take away consent. When you take away consent, all you're consenting to is that for all future models, there may not be data. The nuanced topic is what to do with compensating people. What model would work for compensating people with data? So those are kind of some of the thoughts I have today. Hopefully some of you find it helpful. If you have any thoughts on the biggest concern I have is this might not be an exhaustive or comprehensive list of concerns that need to be addressed, and maybe this is not the most conservative approach to future-proofing your models, but I thought that at least some of the major ideas are covered here. In conclusion, three things: impersonating people, private or public, need to be thought about. AI deception, which is when a human is interacting with AI, you know you're talking to AI, and then lastly, people who provided the data to build the model, do you have their consent before you built the model, either built the model or fine-tuned the model? So that should cover most of the issues that we have going on that we want to be concerned about. Thank you.